Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Pallava Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jaunadeva Panachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivritakacharya Shri Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All glories to the Assam devotees. All glories to the Assam devotees. All glories to the Assam devotees. Glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. We're reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse number 7, attaining the Supreme. Tasmāt sarveṣu kāleṣu Mām anusmara yudhya mayy arpita-mano-buddhir Mām evaiṣyasy asaṁśayaḥ. Chant.
tasmāt sarveṣu kāleṣu
Tasmāt sarveṣu kāleṣu
anusmara yudhya
mayi arpita-mano-buddhir evaiṣyasy asaṁśayaḥ.
tasmāt sarveṣu kāleṣu
anusmara yudhya arpita-mano-buddhir evaiṣyasy asaṁśayaḥ.
tasmāt sarveṣu kāleṣu
anusmara yudhya mayi arpita-mano-buddhir evaiṣyasy asaṁśayaḥ. Ladies.
Tasmāt sarveṣu kāleṣu
anusmara yudhya mayi arpita-mano-buddhir evaiṣyasy asaṁśayaḥ.
tasmāt sarveṣu
kāleṣu Mām anusmara yudhya mayy arpita-mano-buddhir, evaiṣyasy asaṁśayaḥ. Translation. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Kṛṣṇa, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Purport. This instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. The Lord does not say one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Kṛṣṇa by chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Kṛṣṇa. By chanting Kṛṣṇa's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet Kṛṣṇaloka without a doubt. Mukam kariti vachalam pangum langate girim yakipam tamaham bande shigurun dinatavinam amagyana timirandasya gananjara shalakaya chakshuminitam yena tasmāt shigurave namaha. So this is chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, is attaining the Supreme. How can we attain the Supreme? By chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. Prabhupada said in this purport, remember Kṛṣṇa. Of course, remembering Kṛṣṇa means chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. Now, if you go through this whole chapter, you will find in the purport 17 times the Maha Mantra, or chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. It is mentioned. So that's the most important thing. Always chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. What happens at the time of death? Our senses slowly stop, one by one. Very difficult to remember Kṛṣṇa. And during life, of course, in youth, most people, they spend their youth to get wealth. And then in old age, they spend your wealth to get health. And this is the problem. We sacrifice just for money. But our time passes and we neglect our real welfare and our real wealth. There was a great emperor who conquered India. His name was Alexander the Great. On his deathbed, he called his generals and told them his 3 ultimate wishes after I die. Please do these 3 things. Number 1, the best doctor should carry my coffin with my body inside. Number 2, all my wealth which I have collected in this life should be put on the road while I go to the cemetery. Should be scattered along the procession. Number 3, my hands should be let loose hanging outside the coffin for all to see. Now why? Why did he want the best doctors to carry his coffin? Because even the best doctors cannot save you at the time of death. Why all the money should be scattered on the way to the cemetery? Because you can't take it with you. You leave it here on the earth and you go. Your money goes from you, or you go from your money. And number 3, his hands should be outside so everyone can see. You come here empty-handed and you leave empty-handed. So Prahlad Maharaj says, a father and mother cannot protect their child. A physician medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient. A boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. So you might have the best medicine, but if the Krishna says no, then you will not get cured. In fact, I just read the latest statistics for America, which is the most unhealthy country in the world, that the leading cause of death is due to the medicine, reactions to the medicine. And so medicine cannot protect you. The remedies are worse than the cure, Prahlad Maharaj says in his prayer. Sometimes we experience that the remedy is worse than the cure, worse than the disease. The remedies are worse than the disease. So yes, we take with us at time of death only our sinful reactions, our pious reactions, and if we are devotees, we take a ticket to go back to Godhead. And Kapila Dev says in 3rd Canto, Bhagavatam, he goes alone to the darkest regions of hell after quitting the present body. And the money he acquired by envying other living entities is his passage money with which he leaves this world. So the money you earn, you're earning your ticket to go to hell, at least if you earn your ticket by unfair means. So time is the most precious thing. And that was the realization of Alexander the Great. So what happens at the time of death? They say your whole life goes in front of you. There was one devotee, luckily she became a devotee, and she fell off her bicycle. This was before she became a devotee. And her whole life she hit her head, her whole life went in front of her. And then it stopped at the point where as a teenager, she killed a cat. That's where it stopped. Can you imagine what would happen if she died at that moment? She would have become a cat and get killed by some teenager. So yes, so we need to always think of Krishna. We need to be grateful to Krishna. I also had near-death experience, overdose of anesthesia. And so then I went into a place, I was conscious, everything was dark, but I was conscious. No idea of identity. I was like a molecule. I know what a molecule feels like. Everything's black, and you have no thoughts, no desires. You don't even know who you are, if you're a person, an animal. You don't have any idea of having a body. So what happened at that point, when I was in that dark, dark place, all of a sudden, I saw the holy name come in front of me like a screensaver. And it was multicolored. It was in English, so I could read it. And then I started chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa, although I didn't have a subtle or gross body. But somehow the soul was chanting. Then I remember, oh, I'm Narayani Dasi, devotee of Krishna. But how come I didn't go back to Godhead? I have no body, I see. There's no gross, no subtle. What am I doing in the void? That's where the Buddha is supposed to go. Anyway, but that's what the anesthesia does to you. You go to you forget yourself. It's meant for you to forget and not even be conscious, but I was conscious. And I forgot everything, and I was conscious. But Krishna came to me. I could have died, the doctor said. I was struggling to breathe. But Krishna remembered me. Even though I forgot everything, I lost everything, my whole identity. I forgot everything. I forgot Krishna, but Krishna came to me. So if you remember Krishna, Krishna will remember you, the time of death, especially if you chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, if you're into your chanting. So that's very, very important, to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. There's a story about another man who was a very sinful man. He had a near-death experience, and he was an agent. He was actually a terrorist, and his job was to kill people, assassinate. Like he would go at a job, and he was supposed to kill people. So he lost his consciousness. He had a near-death, and he saw his whole life go in front, and every person he killed, he felt the pain of that person, and he felt the pain of the relatives. So every single person. Then he came back, and his life changed completely. He left that job, and he became a good person. And so yes, now of course there's other people. Perhaps you have heard it 2 years ago in Tirupati, during December, we were having the book marathon over here. And so in Tirupati, one man died. And he was they were carrying him on the stretcher to the crematorium. All of a sudden, he jumped up off the stretcher and started running. And everyone was scared. Boot, ghost. He said, no, it's me, I'm back. And they said, what happened? He said, yeah, Yamadutas took me to Yamaraj. And Yamaraj said, you got the wrong person. And they sent me back. But before they left me here, the Yamaduta said to me, if you don't want to see us Yamadutas again, go to ISKCON and get Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, headline came, Yamadutas help in the book marathon. So he was running to ISKCON to get the Bhagavad Gita, and he opened the Gita, he started crying, I won't see Yamadutas again. So if you don't have it, better get Bhagavad Gita. And you won't see the Yamadutas. You got protection. And so there was one sannyasi, he had a realization about death. He says, I'm looking forward to the end. How can I get myself to realize I will be watching my final minutes tick away? Death is all around us. Yudhya said it's the most wonderful thing, that all around us people are dying, but we think we will live forever. And so then, I'm trying to remember, my days are numbered, he said. Each day counts. I should try to help others. And he said, last year I attended several funerals. I like funerals, he said, because I like being reminded one day I will be there in that casket or on that stretcher, at least my body. And people will be around me and wondering, when is Prasad going to be served? The service will pass, the world will go on without skipping a beat, but I will be on my final journey. I won't have to look for a ride home afterwards. At least material nature has made all the arrangements for me. And will I feel a sense of failure? Will I feel like, oh, something I didn't do properly, I wish I could change? And so he said, I ask myself this every day because, death can come anytime. Can come any time. Yes, I see on Facebook always some devotee, young devotee, just had a car accident and finished. He's gone. He says, after all, death may come sooner than we think. Usually it comes sooner than we think. And so he said, this year, my mother passed away, a very religious lady, funny lady. And he said, during my youth, we were very close, but when I became a devotee, she didn't want to talk to me. Then she got Alzheimer's disease. And she liked me again. She forgot that I was a devotee. And, but to her, I was now a stranger. And the last thing she said to me was, it was so nice to have met you. Mother, this is the mother. And she's, of course, we meet our mothers and fathers and our brothers and sisters, and then we go. Now that's how it is. So Prabhupada said in a lecture, we should be sadata bhava bhavita, always think of Krishna. So in Shastra we can look in Bhagavatam, how do devotees face death? Parikshit Maharaj, what was his prayer to the sages? He says, I offer obeisances to all you brahmanas, and I pray, if I should again take my birth in this material world, I have complete attachment to Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relation with all living beings. So what does that mean? That's the preacher. He loves Krishna, he preaches to the innocent, and he's friends with devotees, with other devotees. And he neglects the envious people, of course. So Dhruva Maharaj, he's another devotee. What happened when Dhruva Maharaj left his body? He saw death coming. Yamaraj was coming. And his also Vaikuntha airplane was coming. So Yamaraj was down offering obeisance because he's a devotee leaving his body, Dhruva Maharaj. So he put his foot on the head of Yamaraj as a step to get into his airplane, going to Vaikuntha. And so that's the death of the devotee. So there is a difference between a devotee leaving his body and a non-devotee leaving their body. The description, analogy Prabhupada gives is that of a cat carrying a rat in its mouth. That's the non-devotee. And a cat, so what is the rat feeling? Oh my God, I'm going to die. He's going to eat me alive. He's terrified. Or what about a cat carrying a kitten, his own baby? So the baby's feeling, my mother is carrying me. Yes, I feel really good. So devotee time of death will just be like a kitten in the hands of Krishna. And he's our mother, father, everything. And so yes, we have something to look forward to, but you have to keep chanting. If you forget chanting, you'll forget Krishna. Ambarish Maharaj, he was not afraid. He saw this huge demon come in to kill him. He didn't move. He just stood there, okay, Krishna, whatever you like. So Krishna, of course, knew what's happening. He sent his Sudarshan chakra, which was already there, to protect Ambarish. So Srila Prabhupada, when he was his last days, he got some books in Portuguese, and Prabhupada just printed his books. And this is life. He said, this material world is just bones and stones. Our real concern is the living force, the soul. We're not concerned with the bones and stones. So the living force sustaining the bones, but the bones are not important. It may come, it may go, it doesn't matter. But the real life, that is steady. The soul is always. We have history. There was a rishi, he had only bones. It's Dadichi. So science, you can sustain your life only in bones. Hiranyakashipu did it, practically. Tamal Krishna said, you are also doing Prabhupada. At the end of his life, he was just basically bones. So Prabhupada said, so take care of the bones as long as possible. Real life is here, is the soul. Remember that. And material world means just protecting the bones and flesh together. So what should we do? We should be aware how valuable our time is and use every moment to remember Krishna. Prabhupada always quotes, Kirtaniya sadahari anityam bhagavata sevaya. When we have free time, we should chant Hare Kṛṣṇa or read Bhagavatam. In a letter to Devananda, Srila Prabhupada said, simply our prayer should be, my dear Krishna, please remind me to always chant your holy name. Please don't put me into forgetfulness. You're in my heart, sitting in Super Soul, so you can put me into forgetfulness or into remembrance of you. So please, do not put me into forgetfulness. Remind me to always chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Even if you send me to hell, it doesn't matter, as long as I can always chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. So there was one story about one devotee. He was dying, and he was alone in a hospital. He was a disciple of Satsut Maharaj, and he says, I'm in a huge hospital, like a factory. And that's how you feel if you're in a hospital. He said, some of the people are in horrible shape. At night, people are screaming and crying. The jaws of karma are chewing them. Amazingly, I'm not losing my mind. I never felt so strong spiritually. Every day, I drink the nectar of Prabhupada's words in Gita. So that's what we're doing. This is the true remedy for all diseases in life. This body has to go anyway. Anxiety is not necessary. Every living being he lives, he has to die. And the issue is not to live and die, it's to know and realize who you really are. And realize Krishna, his beauty, develop a loving attraction for him. Of course, we have to serve our devotees also whenever we can. Never criticize the devotees. That's what pleases Krishna. Mental offenses, as well as verbal, bring us down, fall down in misery. And so Satsut Maharaj commented that this devotee did have a problem with offending devotees. But now he's realizing it was a mistake. So he says, I beg you to consider this. Think about your life. I'm experiencing these trials for my benefit and for yours. Be serious in devotional life. Make as much progress as you can while you're able to function as a normal human being. Read the Gita. Take notes. Collect the verses which inspire you the most. Chant your heart out in front of beautiful Krishna Balaram. And serve Guru Maharaj to the best of your ability. And you'll be safe and peaceful all your life. And time of your death, your mind will be fixed. And your destination. Don't lose a minute. There's no time to waste. The clock is ticking. Death is the most serious thing in your life. This is what we have to prepare ourselves for. Here people are trying to forget their anxieties, getting deeper into illusion. They watch TV on their deathbed. They do crossword. They read mundane magazines. This is so sad. They listen to music and try to absorb themselves in material sound vibration. It doesn't do any good. Their anxieties are limitless. I had some period where I was worried about my health, but I was never scared in a big way. It's not I'm very courageous, but Kṛṣṇa was protecting me in the form of his holy name. In the worst times, I chanted the holy name mentally, over and over again. Either I would have died thinking of Kṛṣṇa or lived thinking of Kṛṣṇa, so why worry? Now, Radhanath told a story about one of my god sisters. Her name was Kunti. And she was not a big leader. She didn't have a position. She was not honored and respected as a great devotee. Simple mother, but a very dedicated devotee of Kṛṣṇa. So those who knew her well honored her, but there weren't so many people who knew her. And she got cancer, went into her spine and her breast, and it was in her organs, and she was in a wheelchair. And the doctor said, she's in severe pain, but nothing we can do. So she was always smiling. She was happy, encouraging and making everyone happy. How blissful she was. A local television came and interviewed her. And they'd never seen anything like it. They had a half-hour show, and the hostess was praising her. And Kunti was saying, oh, how beautiful is bhakti. How we are the soul, we are spiritual, we're not going to die. The soul is eternal. So the hostess asked her, how could you be so happy in such a condition, severe pain, in the wheelchair? She said, I know I'm eternal. This body is temporary, and this situation is bringing my soul closer to Kṛṣṇa, so I'm happy and I'm rejoicing. Well, she was ready. So the doctors said her physical symptoms was utterly hopeless and miserable except one thing, her consciousness. Consciousness was good. So at the time of death, she was surrounded by devotees, chanting the holy names, and she went back to Godhead. And one devotee had a vision at the time of her death where she did see an airplane come, a Vaikuntha swan airplane come and take her. So that's what we want to do. We want to remember Kṛṣṇa. There are many examples of devotees leaving their bodies here in Vrindavan. We see this a lot. Mayapur also. There was one devotee lady, same thing, mother with kids. She had cancer, and she went into a coma, and she came back. And then she said, Kṛṣṇa came and asked me if I want to go with him. And I said, no. Then she went into another coma for another week or so. And then she came back and she said, Radharani asked me to go. And I said, yes. And then she left her body. So yeah, these are just ordinary devotees, not Prabhupada disciples. There was Nanda Devi, who was here in Vrindavan for 20 years. She came to leave her body. It took her 20 years to leave her body. Her muscles were completely finished. She had multiple sclerosis. Sometimes she would come in her wheelchair to the temple. Sometimes, but mostly she was in the bed listening to lectures and on audio. And she even said, I don't have the strength to put my hand in my bead bag even. So just before she left her body, she had a vision that she was walking on the path back to Godhead. And Prabhupada was next to her, walking. This is not a Prabhupada disciple, also. But on both sides of the path, people were criticizing her. Oh, she didn't chant her rounds properly. Oh, she didn't go to the temple. She didn't follow the morning program. They're all criticizing. She's a woman, she can't go. No. But then Prabhupada turned to those people, and Prabhupada said, it's okay, she's with me. Then they all started praising her and everything. So that's our hope. We are with Prabhupada. Don't leave Prabhupada. Always be faithful to Srila Prabhupada. Follow his instructions. Chant 16 rounds. Follow the 4 good principles. Prabhupada has given the promise, if you do this, chant without offense, follow the 4 good principles, I will take you back to Godhead. I guarantee it. He said, I guarantee it. And so that is our hope, that we do have Srila Prabhupada, although we may not be completely qualified in this life, but if we have the strong desire to go back to Godhead, to go to Krishna, then it must be fulfilled. And Prabhupada will help us fulfill that desire. Of course, we always have to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. That's the most important thing. And even if we forget Krishna, Krishna won't forget us. That's my experience. And my near-death experience, Krishna came in the form of the holy name. That's how he came to me. And so I came back here to preach. Okay, so I'll stop here if anybody has any questions or comments on this verse. Yes.
Thanks for enlightening. It's very difficult, as we should not waste our time doing all that. But day-to-day activities, there are we can't keep chanting every time.
Right.
How do you balance this?
How do you balance it? Well, I think one of the biggest difficulties now is that we go on the cell phone a lot, and social media. So His Holiness Sachinandan Swami said, the cell phone is a weapon of distraction. Just like we have weapons of destruction, the bombs, but we have weapons of distraction. It takes us away. So what I recommend to people who have a hard time with the cell phone is, before you touch the cell phone, finish your rounds, and then, but if you don't finish your rounds, before you touch your cell phone, chant at least 1 round every time before you touch your cell phone. And then it will help you to remember Krishna. First you chant 1 round, then you pick up your cell phone. Then if you didn't finish your round, okay, another round, and then touch. So that's one thing. How to balance, when you go to work, if you have a job, then you must also think of Krishna. The way you can do your job for Krishna is, and this is if you're working outside. If you're inside, of course it's for Krishna. It's everything for Krishna. If you're working outside, then you purify your work by giving something, donation. Part of your profit, you give some donation to Krishna. That way you're working for Krishna. And you're thinking, oh, this work, yes, I'm going to give some of this to Krishna. I'm going to give donation for this. So then you purify your work. So while you're working, you can think, oh, yes, I'm doing this for Krishna. And then during your lunchtime, you can also chant, read. You can read and do something like that. Any other questions? Sure. Nobody else is asking, so.
How to come out of the fear of death? Like that?
How to come out of the fear of death? We have to, yes. Why do people fear death? Why? It's actually time. Time is the one. Just like Lord Brahma, when he climbed down the lotus stem, he saw his death coming. And so he was afraid. Here the words tapa. So tapa will help. If you do austerity of chanting and reading, that will help you. But also, how to overcome the fear of death is to see Krishna as death. See the hand of Krishna. And that's why people are afraid. 7th Canto Bhagavatam, it says, people are afraid of time because they don't see that time is Krishna. So when you think of death, you must think of Krishna. Think of Krishna. Oh, it's just another form of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada in World War II was in Calcutta, and the bombs were coming. And he said, oh, this is the Vishvarupa of Krishna. I'm seeing the Vishvarupa. Not a very lovable form. We want to see the two-handed form of Krishna, but you have to connect it to Krishna, and then you won't be afraid. No, Krishna is going to hold me in his hands. He's going to take me. Prabhupada is going to. I see Prabhupada there. He'll be there with me, taking me. Krishna will be there. Lord Chaitanya, they will be there, taking me. So whenever you think of death, you have to think of Krishna, Prabhupada. Oh yes, they are there. They will be there for me. Then you won't be afraid. Yes?
How to realize that you are soul, not a body?
How to realize you're a soul and not the body. Yes. Bhagavatam, even Gita also, it tells us that we have to practice yoga. And there's 4 things you have to balance: eating, sleeping, working, and recreation. And also in Bhagavad, that was Gita, Bhagavatam says that you can counteract the threefold miseries by doing different things. So how to counteract the misery of body and mind and realize that you're a soul. So Bhagavatam says pranayama and yoga, hatha yoga. So hatha yoga means you regulate eating, sleeping, working, recreation. You're freed of all miseries. And pranayama says is chanting and dancing. Just, I can give you an example how you can realize your soul. How you can forget to eat. I was in Nepal. I go every year. There's a ladies' retreat. Last year was 300 ladies, Nepali ladies, up in the Himalayas. And one year it was 150 ladies. Last day of the retreat, they were all singing and dancing. Nepali ladies, they love to dance. And but there was one Gujarati lady. She came. They started 7:30 at night, and she came and said, it's prasadam time. It's time to eat. Nobody paid attention. They were so happy chanting and dancing. She came back at 8:30. It's really getting late. It's time to eat. Nobody paid attention. She tried again at 9:30. This is prasad. Nobody paid attention. They were still chanting and dancing. They forgot to eat. So she also started chanting and dancing, and she forgot to eat. And so that's how you can realize your soul, by practicing being absorbed in chanting. Just like some of you don't have this experience, but my son has kids, and they like to play games on the cell phone, and they'll forget to eat by being on the cell phone. So you can maybe understand it by that example. So we can forget to eat by being absorbed in spiritual life, chanting and dancing according to Bhagavatam, pranayam. Any other questions?
You will come across the anesthesia and other things to the assistant that you saw the Hare Kṛṣṇa mantra. So, as you experienced already, so after anesthesia and when they give drugs, when somebody is hospitalized, when they give heavy drugs and other things, does it mean that you don't dream or something?
When they give you drugs, does it mean you don't dream?
Oh.
That's your question?
Yeah, when they give drugs,
no, I have heard that you do dream.
Okay.
I have heard from devotees who had anesthesia that you do. See, I was supposed to lose consciousness, but I didn't.
Oh.
That happened to me. And they gave me an overdose. So I think that was why, because I was conscious, and so they kept giving me more and more. But I'm allergic to anesthesia, actually. And an overdose almost killed me. So then I was in a whole different place. But yes, I was praying. I don't know Sanskrit, but I composed a prayer in Sanskrit to Krishna. I said, okay, here I'm in this place again. I don't like to be here. But all I remember is the end, Sharanam Prapadye, I surrender to you. So, I wasn't dreaming. I was just seeing things. I was seeing actually Kṛṣṇa also, but not like three-dimensional. It was just like a outline or something, like a vibration. I was seeing vibration. I was not seeing like these pictures. I was seeing things. I was not dreaming. That was for sure. It was real. I was not sleeping at all. But yes. I can give you an example. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was under anesthesia and he had a dream. It could be also real too. He had a dream that Prabhupada was reporting about his mission to the previous acharyas. And Prabhupada was saying, these people, they have no good qualities. They have no austerity. They have no cleanliness. They don't have any good habits. But one thing they have, Guru Nishta. They have faith in me. He said, that's the one thing. And Tamal had that dream, he said. And he was under anesthesia. And so yeah, that's the one thing we had. We would do anything for Prabhupada. Whatever he said, we would do. And after being a devotee for 1.5 years, my husband and I, we were chosen to go to India, to come to India, 1972. And of course, they didn't give us a ticket. In fact, we were in Texas, like in the middle of the South, and we had to hitchhike up to New York. They wouldn't even give us a bus ticket or plane or train, nothing. And we were hitchhiking. That was the hippie way anyway. Just we would ask for a ride and people would give us rides. So it's pretty far distance, maybe 1,500 miles, I don't know, maybe 2,000 kilometers. And then we got there by begging rides, and then when we got to New York, they allowed us to collect. We got a one-way ticket because Prabhupada told us to come to India. He didn't tell us to go back. So we didn't go back. So, I mean, now we go back and forth. But for 10 years, we didn't go back, and then we go back and forth. But, Prabhupada said, go to India, okay? We were chosen. Every temple, two devotees were chosen to go to India. And very much austerities here. Our first day in Bombay Juhu temple, devotees were living on the land. Deities also, no temple was there, just tent. And the men had a hut. The ladies had nothing. We were on the roof of a building, and it was summer. And we didn't have even a roof over our head. And the first day we were sitting for breakfast prasadam inside the hut. Big rats were running, big fat ones. And I was thinking, I hope he doesn't fall in my plate. He fell in someone else's plate. So this is culture shock, first day in India, right? Now all the temples are built. At that time we were on the land. Yes, a lot of austerities. But we didn't give up. We had faith in Prabhupada. No. Prabhupada said, this is a revolution, a spiritual revolution, and we were all revolutionaries. We wanted to make revolution in the hearts of people, actually. That's the best one. Not by fighting and war. Okay, any other questions? Finish. Jai, glory to Prabhupada, Hare Kṛṣṇa.